For Reaper Metal Productions, I am Adam of Unbaptized Records, here to make a brand new video for you today. And today is my third and final installment of the little game that I got from Hellcast, which I will link in the description below. It was from an older episode where basically Reaper and Justin went through a stack of patches and in 30 seconds or less just talked about the band, gave a little brief description, or essentially first thing that came off the top of your head without any rehearsal. So that's what I'm going to be doing here. I have one last stack of patches I'm going to go through. I removed any of the doubles. So anything I talk about shouldn't be in the previous videos. And I'm going to probably go maybe more like a minute with the band. So minute or less rather than 30 seconds. And this is the last stack of patches I have. So still try to randomize it the best I can. First we have Dside. This is an awesome shape patch. The Servants of the Light patch. Obviously, we know there are a few people out there who this is their favorite album. I enjoy it. I think the first four are awesome. I don't think there's any really bad Dside albums. I know a lot of people tend to fall off after the first few. I think a lot of them are just maybe people just glossed over them. They either didn't like it because I know there was the two albums that they were trying to escape Roadrunner, so they just kind of put them out, but really not as bad as people give them credit for or lack credit for. And then the Hoffman brothers left. The later albums are still pretty good too. I don't really think there's any particularly bad albums, and definitely not Servants of the Light. So this is the only Dside patch I own other than a logo one. So I'm definitely glad that this was put out, and I'm glad that Pull the Plug Patches does these shapes, although some of them are kind of weird. This is like a tombstone shape, which is kind of cool, but some of the ones that maybe even showed in the past, they don't really fit on the vest easily. So I love it. The fact that they put out patches, bands all across the spectrum, but some of the shapes are a little weird and don't really fit easily on a vest, but definitely glad they put out new Dside patches. Okay. Next we have a band you're probably not familiar with. Is a band called Begat the Nephilim, or Nephilim, not sure how to pronounce it, but you may be familiar with their drummer. So the drummer is Josh. He is also the drum tech for the band Obituary. So if you've ever seen the band Obituary live, and if you ever see someone jumping on stage with Don, helping him out, playing the drums, at least for a few seconds in a couple of the songs, he's the drummer of this band. It's a New Hampshire band. Not really sure how to categorize them. Sort of like a melodic death metal, I suppose. I've seen them twice now, and I've gotten their CD signed. They only have 2 albums. And their singer was supposed to bring the LPs with them on this last tour, and then he forgot. So next time he's going to bring the LPs. Hopefully he remembers, so I can grab those 2 and have them signed. But I wanted to have the CDs and LPs signed by the band. But yeah, they're an awesome band. I enjoy them. I think a lot of people would like them, even though, again, they fall into sort of the mainstream as well. So I think one of the things I'd like to communicate is to get more people into some of the bands that maybe fall into the supposed mainstream, have the cleaner recordings, whatever. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think you should still judge it by the quality of the music rather than, in some cases, the lack of quality. And I think that's a good band that, even though they do fall into maybe a category of touring with some of the more deathcore type bands, I think they're still worth checking out because they don't fall into that category. All right, what's next? Next we have the band Havoc. This sort of punky, hardcore thrash band. They definitely fall into the Wake Up Sheeple category of letting everyone know their political views. So that could definitely be a turnoff for some people. I think they're good. They're definitely not my favorite, but I do enjoy them. I have one of their albums signed by 3 of the 4 band members when they were on tour with Toxic Holocaust. The reason was the venue was closing up soon, and my priority was to try to meet Joel Grind again and have him sign some of my records and 7-inch records and stuff. So when I saw him, I ran over and kind of didn't care that I missed one of the band members' signatures. But they're a decent band, not the greatest, and very politically outspoken. So if you're not into that kind of thing, you may not like them. I think that kind of hinders it a little bit because you can kind of get tired of a band just letting you know everything about them and their music rather than being a little more subtle. There's nothing wrong about politics and music, I think, as long as it's more subtle. That's sort of my opinion, but of course, very nuanced conversation that I don't have hours and hours to get into, and I think sometimes it definitely calls for a longer conversation, which I'm not getting into now. Next is the English band Flayed Disciple. They're a little flying head logo. This is a band I absolutely love, and I feel like nobody ever talks about them. I definitely want to do a deeper dive into their discography. They have 4 EPs and a full length. Their full length is fantastic, but it's only on CD. Their other EPs, the newest ones on CD and tape, they have 2 old EPs that are essentially just on CDR. Luckily, I was able to get their rhythm guitarist to send me copies, which was absolutely awesome because I'm just such a huge fan and I really wanted to own them physically, and I'm glad I do. I also asked him if he could put them on Spotify, and I think they are now. So if you don't know Flayed Disciple, definitely look them up. They started out as more of like a brutal death metal band, kind of similar to Suffocation. It's their first EP. Then they became more like tech death thrash, and now they're more like tech thrash. So definitely worth checking out. Okay. Death. Do I have to say anything? No. Death. I think we know. That's it. That was easy to do in 10 seconds or less. All right. Next we have CF. Not to be confused with Cradle of Filth. This is Carpathian Forest, a band I got into much more recently, but I really enjoyed their music. I think they're awesome. Symphonic black metal. I really enjoy all the releases I've heard by them. The early stuff, later stuff, basically a band I could say that almost anything I've heard I enjoy by them. There was like one interlude song that was like a slow, dancey techno song, which I didn't understand why that was on the album. It's a little weird, but everything else I think is fantastic. If you don't know them, probably should, because they're, the name's been out there for a while, so I imagine you've probably heard of them, but definitely great black metal. What else? All right, next we have Nunslaughter. So, kind of if you're a fan of the channel, you know Nunslaughter. Reaper was a part of the band for a while. Down of the Dead worked for Hell's Headbangers. One of the reasons that Hell's Headbangers even started doing a distro was because the member of Nunslaughter is no longer with us, Jim Kanya, had a side project called Spawn of Satan, and he went up to the owners and asked if they could put out the CD. I have another patch as well, so chances are you know about them. I'm actually going to be going to see them in Massachusetts in a couple of weeks. So by the time you see this, it'll probably still be before the show, but I'm hoping to catch them at Desolus. Desolus is awesome too, so I can't wait. And then I'm definitely going to try to go see Nunslaughter later in the year at the free show the Bucks are putting on the day before Dead by Dog. Next, Anthrax. One of the supposed big four thrash metal bands. Not really a big fan. I own one of their albums only because there's one song and it's a later album. I'm not really a huge fan of it. I really should give them another listen, but honestly, even of the big four, I would say they're easily my least favorite. I really just don't care for their sound at all. Maybe I'm just missing out. Maybe there's something I'm just not catching, but I would rather listen to almost anything else in that era besides Anthrax. So this one, like Goathor, is probably one I'll be getting rid of. I don't think I need that in my collection, personally. And just a couple more. Goathor. This happens to be my back patch as well, not the specific patch, but Goathor is my back patch. I love Constricting Rage of the Merciless. I love the song Bearing Teeth for Revolt. These guys are awesome. I saw them twice. I think it was maybe not last year, but 2 years ago. I got to see them with Spider, and I actually saw them both in the same place. They were fantastic. I know they are not on most people's radar. I love that they're they're a good gateway band. So instead of listening to Korn or Slipknot, I would say listen to someone like Goathor. They kind of fit in like a black and thrash, but in a much more popular version, definitely less raw version. But I don't think they're worth skipping over. Again, maybe if you're a seasoned veteran of the scene, you're 50 years old, you've heard everything, you've been to every show, you don't need Goathor. But I think for some of the newer people who are getting into the music now, who just listen to maybe metalcore and deathcore, this is not a bad gateway band. I still think that they are good and worth listening to personally, but that's because I also listen to music maybe across more of a spectrum than some of the other people, which is fine because that's just what I grew up with. Nothing wrong about it, nothing right about it. It just is what it is, but I really enjoy Goathor. Again, they are my back patch, so clearly I enjoy them a lot. Next is a band you 1000% are going to be familiar with if you watch this channel because this is Reaper's band and I have two. So I'll show you both patches here. This is Crucified Mortals. This is their first release. Converted by Decapitation, and this is the album art from their full length, that of the the self-titled full length, which I own 2 LPs of this. There is the single LP and the double LP that has bonus material, and then this is an LP that have, I believe, silver with maybe red splatter, and then also a picture disc, and then of course the CDs and I think tapes both I own, and the patches. So clearly a huge super fan of Crucified Mortals, and there are some rumors that Crucified Mortals might have some new music out, and there's even a chance that they might be playing a live show at some point, 2026, who knows, but give Reaper all the love in the comments, and then maybe he will see them and hopefully want to get his stuff into gear and actually record some stuff. Well, there is a lot of stuff recorded. I've actually heard some of the demos of the newest CM. I want it to come out desperately. That would be great. And then my label on Baptize is definitely looking into doing some Crucified Mortals demo stuff in the future. So hopefully that happens as well. So I got a couple more. Kind of hard to be random because I kind of know what they are, but Impalnazarine. These guys are great, maybe second or third wave black metal with that punk vibe to them. I love their early music. I think later on they kind of got a little silly with some of the titles of their songs. They're a pretty unique band, especially for early 90s. The first album is awesome. I wish that they didn't get sued by the religious group that they did to keep their album art. Would have been cool, but I think the new album art's pretty cool too. There's nothing by this band I don't like, but I do think they kind of got silly and carried away with some of the song titles as they went on, but I still think it's good music and fairly unique. Next, we have another Ohio band, and related to CM because their drummer, the founding member, Faith Extractor, used to be at one point the drummer for Crucified Mortals. So Faith Extractor, one of my favorite bands out of Ohio. I've mentioned them tons of times. That's another band on my bucket list I would absolutely love to see. Hopefully at some point I get to see them. That would be great. Otherwise, I'll just have to stick with their music for now. And their new album is on Redefining Darkness for pre-order. I believe it's coming out next month. CDs and LPs available. And last, I have Spider. It's a Hell's Headbangers band. They recently put out a split 7-inch, which I absolutely love, both A-side and B-side. I have 2 copies if you can get your hands on it. They did a split with the New Hampshire hardcore band Diabolus, I believe they're called. I love both sides, but the other side, they're a little bit newer of a band. I think maybe that's their only release. But like I mentioned, I got to see Spider with Goathor. They have a demo tape, which I don't have, but they do have their full length, which I have the CD and LP. LP signed, and then their newest EP that came out, I believe last year, I have the CD and LP of that as well. It's fantastic. Definitely worth checking out if you don't know. Spider, great band. That's it for this video. That was it for my patches. Let me know what you thought of some of those bands, and I will see you in the next video.